You can see here my lineup. This is what I love about this app, is that I've done all my sketches and now I can pick one of those sketches up and place it on a paper and resize it. That's the most exciting thing. And then use that to create the image that I want. I love Ukiyo-e. I'm a fashion illustrator and I make kimonos. And this is the place where those two things collide in sumptuous line and technicolor and the most beautiful art out there. Any artist is bowled over by it. It is incredible, and I want to learn from it. So best way to learn something is to do it. And so what I've been trying to do, using the inspiration from Kiyonaga and Harunobu and Yoshitoshi and Kunisada and Utamaro and Hiroshige, all the artists, I've just got files where I've saved the pictures off the internet, and I'm going through trying to pick out what it is that makes them what they are. And while I can't recreate it, I'm not going to sit with a knife and a piece of wood. I don't have the patience for that, but I want to pick up on how they express things with their line. It's so beautiful and stylized. It's so curated that you can see there's thought in it, because when you're making a woodblock print, you're doing what I'm doing here. You draw onto a piece of paper, but then someone cuts that piece of paper, literally slices through the paper to make the woodblock print with a knife. So you've created something with a pen, and then they recreate that with a knife, and they're expressing your expression of the brush with a knife. It's staggering. It is a staggering art form, and it really is an art form. It has made some of my favorite pieces of art in the world, and some of the world's favorite pieces of art in the world. The Hokusai wave, obviously, is one of the most famous images in the world ever. And if I could just get a little bit of that, if I could just get some of their knowledge that these artists have, a lot of them, I think it was Hokusai or Hiroshige. It was Hokusai who said, I didn't make anything worth looking at until I was 70. So I've got a few years to go until then, but they're just fantastic. And they're really fun to draw. You can put a formula into it. So, there's a hairstyle. The hairstyle has combs and it has hairpins. And then they have the way that you can see the collars coming down away from the neck. They have all of the ones that I've drawn on this page. So there's 8 women in kimono, all lined up. All of them have a fan covering their mouth. It's for something that I'm doing. I drew 8 of them because I'm going to have them stood around on a garment. So just from their obi up. And by adding the fan in, it adds anonymity. I always find that people quite enjoy pictures that are a little bit anonymous, so they don't look like someone, unless they're supposed to look like someone. If they're not supposed to look like someone, they shouldn't look like anyone. It's just a bit of artifice to enjoy. So that's the reason for the fans. But also to practice this. So by drawing 8 of them and by going through this process 8 times, just on this time, I'm constantly drawing them. You learn a little thing every time. You go, that's how they express this line here. Those little lines on the sleeves of the kimono that I did earlier, where the folds are, often in a woodblock print, they're so stylized that they look like a character, a kanji or a hiragana, katakana character drawn with a brush. They've got the flick and they come back up. And they're square. It's not what happens in life. They're not trying to imitate life here. They're trying to evoke life. That's another thing. We're not going for realism. You're going for understanding, but not realism. You want someone to understand what they're looking at, but not to think they could pick it up and it'd be part of their world straight away. It's a fantastic way to think about art. It's about art is artifice. You're creating something that isn't real, something that can't be real. Otherwise, you would look at it yourself. I don't know. I like that. I'm not sold on either way, but I love that way of thinking. It's a fantastic way to consider how to illustrate is you don't need to recreate something. You make something that can't be created in real life. Fantasy. So much fun to draw, so much line. These especially the wings of the Edo period hairstyle in its late 18th century form here, where it really is just gargantuan. Also, the hairstyle is inspired by a onagata, which is not Ukiyo-e, Kabuki performer. It's a male who performs the female role, because females weren't allowed on stage quite quickly after Kabuki was started, because of the usual reasons why people take women off stage, and the same things that they took women off stage for, men were taken off stage as well. But anyway, this onagata, Bando Tamasaburo, and he's got a number after his name. I think it's the second, but to be honest, it could be the 10th, because they've been around for a very long time. Of which, for relaxation at night, I watch the performances on my TV before I go to sleep. And the hairstyles, they are just unbelievable. They're like this. They're set up in chignons that you would expect from like the 60s in London. And some of them are split. You would have seen on that sketch page, some of them are split in the middle to make, not rabbit ears, but these, you can think of that, but they're cylindrical. Oh, they're stunning. There's so much that can be explored just by drawing this. And I love that you're drawing the same thing over and over again, but every single one would be completely different. Yet if you put them all together, they're complete cohesion. They're all part of a whole. Wonderful. So I've done the line art here, and now when I come in, you can see me meticulously going around the line, and I'm using the studio brush, which ebbs and move, like it moves with your movement as well, so you can really get into a thin part, but then push down and you get a nice thick line. It's just like using a Copic marker, really, except it's completely opaque. Go around that, and then what I'll do is I'll fill that shape, and then I have a base that I can work off. So I've roped it off in a way, and then I can just work off that and use clipping masks to come in and manipulate the image in that way, rather than, I don't know, coloring in entire things or singular things one by one. It's a great way to start your illustration. Get a line down and then get a base, so you can chop into it and then drop color into it. It's very relaxing. The key, I'm getting very good at following a line and not coming off the line too much. But the key to that is don't look anywhere else, and you don't think about anything else. You look at the end of the pen on the line, and when you look away for 1 second, you go away from the line. You think about something else, you go away from the line. So it's also an exercise in meditation. And it is so meditative once you get right into it. You can see my hand guard there. That when I draw on paper, I use a folded up piece of paper that's folded in four, and I use it to sharpen my pencil. So I open it up like a book and sharpen the pencil on the inside. And I use it to try color combinations with pens. But obviously I don't have to do that on here. But I still need a pad, because right now, there is a heat wave where I live in Manchester in the UK, and it is sweltering. It's actually too hot to put that glove on, but I need something because the iPad's still hot, so I've got it underneath, and it's perfect. It's and it's much more comfortable than wearing the little gloves. So if you have one of those gloves, try it like this. It works fine. So here I'm coming in with the color. You see, you still have to go around and, like, this is an intricate drawing, you still have to go around and put in your color. You can't just drop it in and say that's the hair, put it in the hair place, which is fine. And you can, but you've got clipping masks, so I can draw over that and go a bit mad with the pen, and it will be okay. It clips it to within the image, but it doesn't draw the picture for you. There are things that can do that, and they're very good at it, actually. The AI, they're absolutely fascinating to see. Can't wait to see what comes out of it. I've tried it a few times, but I can't get it to do exactly what I want. You can't get it to see inside your head and draw exactly what you want, but it can do some pretty cool stuff, and in styles that I can't do, but with my direction. So it's interesting, fun thing to explore, that's for sure. And I'll do some good. I love this. Where the hair meets the skin in Ukiyo-e prints, that's where you really see the artistry. That's carved out of wood. Whenever you look at one of those lines, it was like this. It was drawn on a piece of paper, but then that was carved into a piece of wood. That little line there, it's unbelievable when you consider it. Next time you see Ukiyo-e, look at the hairline, and just consider carving a hairline like that out of a piece of wood with a knife. Unbelievable. And to recreate it, it's probably easier for them to do it than for me. I love this. Just black and white. I used to do a lot of just black and white drawings before, especially before I had Copic markers. So I had Derwent pencils and I had fine liners. So I could pretty much just do black and white. I didn't have grey or anything. I never bought the markers for a few years there. And so I'd do a giant drawing on an A3 piece of paper. So it's 30 centimeters, what's that, 12 inches by about 14 or 15 inches. 12 by 16, actually, that's exactly what it is. 12 by 16 inches. I'd do these giant drawings and then I'd colour them in with my black pens. So it was just black and white and a fine liner. And I absolutely loved them. I think they were so gorgeous. So it's kind of nice to do this again, because then I remember when I was doing them, there were things that you just couldn't do because I was working with a pen and paper. I didn't use gouache or watercolors or anything like that. And so doing an enormous black drawing, I remember once I did it, I was on holiday, I was in Germany, and I sat in the sun drawing this woman in a giant black dress. And I went through 3 pens because the ink just dried up as I drew them. So the color of the black on the dress changes as you go through the dress because they're slightly different inks. But now I can do this and just drop it in. So it's definitely, I've got this iPad and I've had it for years now, but I keep just having little flashes. I'll be going to sleep, or I'll just think of something as I'm walking about during the day and go, and I'll think of something that I wanted to draw years ago when I didn't have this technology. I just had pens and pencils, and there's things that you're limited to when you've just got those mediums. And I'm like, I can do that now. I can do that picture. So it's fun to remember. I write them down, and they're on a list, and I do a little sketch of them. They're all through this sketchbook of things. There's the sort of things that I missed out on that I want to do now, like that. See that, filling that black? Gosh, it's so easy. There you go, and dropping the picture in. This is using reference. So the line art, I reference that, and then on a separate layer, as you can see, I can drop it in, and you're dropping the color into a new layer, but it's referencing the line art up the top. Very useful to use. Every time I do it, I press reference on the line layer, and I start filling that line layer in, and then I have to go back and undo everything, and remember to choose the other layer. Layers are very important. You always have to make sure you're on the right layer, especially when you're doing a many-layered color illustration like this. So here, each one of these drawings, I've got 8. You saw the 8 ladies at the start. They're going to have a different pattern on their kimono, and this one is a scene of abundance in summer. So she has, or spring summer. She's got peaches. Which is what's the word? It's venerated. It's auspicious, an auspicious fruit, in the Far East, in China and Japan, definitely in the Sinosphere. It's the peach and the peach blossom are auspicious signs of abundance and wealth. So I've got that, and it's paired with trying to do this. It's all black and white, so it's all about getting that balance of the black and white. I've heard someone refer to it as the Tang balance. If the hand's up on one side, it's down on the other. If it's black on one side, it's white on the other. There's, you know, you can think of yin yang and the Tao being explained in this way, but it's fantastic for balance. And any art will tell you to do that as well. So here I just make a small group of motifs. I've just come back from Venice, and I went to the Fortuny, what's it called? The House of Fortuny, or the Mariano Fortuny, one of my absolute heroes, who made the Delphos gown. You would probably understand, but he was unbelievable polymath. He also is huge in set design and lighting. Lots of people know him from that. And if you're from fashion, you know Mariano Fortuny is one of the people who was there when releasing people from the corset. So, and he has his atelier that he had in Venice is still there, and it's a museum, and it's got all his prints. So he had, just like I've got a bookshelf full of Japanese motifs and Japanese prints, he has the same, written in Italian and Spanish because he's Spanish. And he got his libraries there, and he's got libraries of prints that he makes with all these beautiful repeats. And so this is definitely, I can see the Fortuny line in the way that those fronds, the branches, spiral around there. Oh, if you go to Venice, you have to go there. It's unbelievable. I think it's every artist, every fashion designer, anyone who's into the creative world, to see that space. You dream of having a space like that. These huge vaulted ceilings and all these beautiful silks, and he revolutionized the way to print metallics onto velvet. So it's so sumptuous, absolutely beautiful. Took my breath away. There were rooms where I just go, just spellbound by it. As you can see, I put some chrysanthemums in there. There's some blossom and a couple of swallows. And then I'm basically making a tile. I'm not too concerned that this is going to exactly fit and like a puzzle piece and match up, but I'm going to repeat this and repeat it a couple of times. So there's a couple of elements in there that will, that differentiates it, but it doesn't have to be a seamless repeat. Although they are fun to do on Procreate as well. Always keep your original, I always think. Keep your original and work with a new one. And see here, it's just about fitting it. Where is this going to fit that it's not too samey, but it's not going to be too obvious. This is the best part. Oh, when I used to draw on pens and paper to do this all over a kimono, you're literally drawing every bit. I'm glad that I have the skill. I know how to do that because I've done it 1,000 times, but I think my hand thanks me for it. I don't have carpal tunnel from drawing every chrysanthemum petal on the robe. Even so, I remember I did a leopard print drawing. I shared it on here actually. The leopard print drawing. Even when you're doing a repeat, you're like, oh gosh, why did I choose leopard print? There are so many circles to draw. Look at that. It's magic, isn't it? Could you even imagine? And so you see there's a line in it, but I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And there are prints just like this in Japan. This is sort of done from memory, but I know there's, in one of my books, there's a kimono decorated in something very similar to this. So there's that clipping mask I'm talking about again. I put it under the right layers. It's underneath the black, and I can just get the eraser and remove the print from the parts that shouldn't be on. So there's her Nagojiban color, and then there's her hands, and I think it looks fantastic on the fan. Usually I draw a different little thing on the fan, but it just looks so beautiful the way that flower curved up. I thought, ooh, I'm going to keep that. Turn it around so it looks like I've done it separately. Gorgeous. I'm always shifting between turning those magnetic things on and off. They're very, very useful, but then when you're getting into something quite creative like this, you need to be able to move however you want. But when you're lining things up, oh, they're fantastic. They find the center of the page, the edge of the page. They find where the similarities in pattern of where you've moved other things are. Try them out if you are selecting and moving things around. And then this is shibori. I always draw this on an underrobe. I think it's so lovely. It's a great frame because you would have a white collar next to the face, and her face will be white, and then you have something patterned and then something black. It's just another little layer. It's so beautiful. And then here you can see it moving around like that. If you haven't used a clipping mask, you should go and try it. They're absolutely fantastic. You have a big shape that's flat below, and then you put a layer above that, and you select clipping mask on it, and then get a big brush and just draw across the shape, and you'll see that you can make a perfect stripe. And then you can start playing around with patterns like this. Absolutely fantastic for filling things in and creating patterns. It can get confusing when you're trying to work out which one you're working on, but they're really good. So here I've cut out from one of them because I want it to just swivel slightly, so it doesn't look like I've just pasted it down over the whole thing. There's a big line where the sleeve is. That should be the pattern there should move differently to the pattern on the rest of the kimono, just slightly, but it just makes it look a little bit more like it's actually printed on the kimono rather than just plastered across the entire image. Oh, it's so fun just drawing in black and white. It really is. Doesn't she look fantastic? Look at that. And so I'm planning to do a series of these, as you saw at the start. And they'll, from about the obi or just below the obi, they'll go from the hem of a sweatshirt up around so it's white at the top over the shoulders. Because I found this thing called, what's it called? They've like got print on demand for garments. So you can create something and it's printed on demand, so you don't need to print 100 of them or 1,000 of them. If someone likes it, they'll buy it from your shop and it'll get printed and sent to them. And if they buy one, they get one. If they buy four, they get four. Like, it's fantastic. It's going to be great for artists like you, artists like me, who are drawing and have things like this that could go on something that someone would like to wear. There you go. So you see, I that same pattern, I dyed it, I dropped in the color white and then put that onto the black. They look completely different because they're different sides, but it's the same exact pattern. And then the thing is, you've got this blank, so you could move everything around on it. The black and white, the black base with the white could go for the kimono, and the vice versa for the obi. The kimono could just be plain black. There's so much, and that is the basis of a woodblock print as well, is that when you look at them, they're all different colors, the same print. I love this sepia tone. I think that's beautiful. I hope you enjoyed it.